All right, guys, welcome back to the show. We're podcast 169. I'm with Alain Pineault. Did I say that right? The French?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to just call him Al throughout the podcast. But Al and I have known each other for a while, kind of like through same spiritual groups, this type of thing. I know your brother pretty well. And you recently went down this like really cool path that I've kind of been following on your socials and YouTube. You started now about like getting like really into fitness. And I like watch you post your videos. You're doing things that like no one else is doing kind of in the gym. And I thought it was like really cool. And you also went through some injuries that you found ways to recover from, and one that's actually kind of near and dear to me, which is like low back pain, which is something that I've struggled with as well, especially playing a lot of golf. And so you had commented on my last video, me coming back, and so we're going to kind of do this in two parts. But I think the first part is like, let's just talk about like kind of the journey and how you like went down this like health path, and kind of give me a little bit of background of how this all kind of came around.
Yeah, I would love to do that because I started off loving sports but being super average, and I always really wanted to be good, but I was never really like gifted. And I think that in and of itself was my gift because now I was able to like I had the pressure or the reason to sort of improve and do things that no one else was doing in order to reach an elite level. So I've reached the level of playing pro in volleyball. So this past year I was playing overseas in a country called Faroe Islands, and I was able to do extremely well there as well and be completely injury free. But it wasn't always like this, and most of my life I was plagued by like um, just being really unathletic and being susceptible to injury, like you said, low back pain and ankle sprains and stuff. And along the way, I've just discovered like things that maybe haven't reached the mainstream understanding of fitness, but are still sort of coming out. Like I know I'm doing something right when people are like, "Wait, like what is this?" or "What are you doing?" or sort of not quite uh, at the same level of understanding as like everyone kind of understands that if you lift weights, you get bigger muscles, but there's a sort of um, a, a further or like a higher level as it applies to like athleticism and sports performance.
Yeah, right. And that's like that's what I'm like kind of like interested in is like, so like what was like the I mean I'm sure you had multiple, but what was like kind of like some of the ahas from training, like like for example, one of the ahas I've had in training for myself recently is this like it's like consistency is king, essentially, is the thing I've learned. It's like, all these guys that you see that look ripped, this is because they've just been consistent for 20 years. Like my buddy Tony Smith is a perfect example of that. It's just like, he's just not missed the gym. He takes rest days and all of that, of course, but he just is consistent. And so like that's what I've been noticing. Like I've been working out with a trainer for 2 years and only usually 2 or 3 days a week with her. But I've been doing it for, yeah, well, actually, I think longer, almost since COVID. So for 4 years, I've been training with her. And like that consistency is what has led me to, continue to keep my muscle mass and, look half decent, even though I could be better, but look half decent. It was just consistency. And I was like, oh my God, it's like if I just stay consistent, I'm gonna get to where I want to go. And that was like, I think the thing that always limited me was like I wanted the results so quickly, that wanting the results so quickly actually led to me not doing the workouts, right? Because it's like it wasn't showing up fast enough. But now I realize like, hey, if I just keep working out, I'm gonna gain muscle. And I have. I probably gained, you know, 4 or 5 pounds of muscle, in the last 4 or 5 years, which doesn't sound like a lot, like to like the average person, because like in my old days, like, oh, I just put on like all this muscle, and I thought it would come so quick. But now I realize it's actually like this really, really slow process. But you do get to get the benefit of that slow process. You do see results. It's just like usually it takes a lot longer than you have. So that was my big aha, and I'm wondering like what yours are.
Yeah, that actually is a perfect example of like if you're building it slowly, then you can sort of like maintain it or preserve it. We'll take like the extreme example on the other side of like if you take steroids, the muscle mass outpaces the connective tissue, and so that's when you get tendon tears. And so this is the essence of one of the differences between like you could say athletic or functional training versus like bodybuilding or like aesthetic training is well everybody knows to get bigger muscles you got to tear it and break it down. But what people don't realize is when you tear muscle you're also tearing the connective tissue.
Mm.
And the connective tissue tears first, and it also takes 3 times longer than the muscle to repair. And so, if we're talking about sustainable muscle building and keeping our function of our body for sports, then we need to honestly like give ourselves a lot more time to recover and be a lot more efficient at recovery than one may think. Because if you're sore for 3 days, your connective tissue might take up to 9 days to fully repair. And that's like given your nutrition is right, you're hydrated and stuff, which most people aren't. And so what we see really commonly are like fit, sick people. They're like
Yeah.
got big muscles, but their digestion's not functioning well. They're dehydrated, and they're in pain. That's probably the most common thing that I see.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that I was you were saying that like Tiger Woods flashed to mind for me because watching Tiger Woods like kind of come up, he was like this skinny kid, skinny kid, skinny kid, and then in a very short period of time, it seemed like he put on so much muscle. Like the commentators I remember making concept comments about how big his biceps were, and that to me was like really quick muscle growth, right? And then if you look at Tiger Woods, it's like from what you're saying, it's like he had all these injury problems, right? And like it's like that makes perfect sense if you're trying to train for like to be like an elite athlete. It's like if your connective tissue is taking 9 days to recover and you did biceps 3 days ago, now you're going to do it again or whatever that may be, you haven't given your body the full space to recover, and then that would lead to like injuries. And I kind of like even notice that in golf. It's like if I do like the deadlift day or whatever, and then I go out right away and start swinging the club, it's like that's when I'm usually uh, subjective to those little injuries and like little low back tweaks. Actually, this we're on that. Let's talk about the low back because this is what happens with my low back is when I was a kid I got hit by a car and it like completely fucked me up. Like I broke my pelvis, my ribs, my arm. Like I was a mess. Like I was like in bad shape. And over time, like the injury was like in my neck, and then over time it like went all the way down to my low back now, which is weird. Like it was like used to be like mid like neck like kinked crazy, then middle of my back, and now it's low back. But now the low back is weird. It's like I can be doing an exercise and I'll just feel one little pop. It's like, and it's so subtle and then I'm screwed. Like it's just like my whole entire back seizes it up. And my trainer's great and she understands like what's happened is that I think the vertebrae have shifted to hit my nerve and then my muscles seized to try and protect, right? And then the pain is from the muscles being in this protective state and they won't release because they're essentially it's like it's protecting, and so they won't release because they think there's going to be another injury essentially. And so then I'm trapped for like weeks because I'm in this like C state, and then slowly over time with stretching and whatever it comes back. And so I'm interested to know like what how that relates to your back injury and what have you found to like prevent that from like reoccurring, you know?
Yeah, that's so man, that's really like touching because I feel like so many people deal with that. And even to speak on the way that you approach things too is like that's just what we do emotionally too. And you're always talking
Mhm.
about how like the whole purpose of the mind is to protect us from pain.
Yeah.
And that there's a correlation. So I think not to dance around the specifics, but I
Yeah.
think overall the unique offering or um, sort of the unique context that I approach fitness with is like that it is holistic and that it is like affected like from top down, from the spirit through the mind through the emotions, and then the body is the last thing
Yeah.
to come up with just the holistic approach. And so which I feel like 99 out of 100 trainers or fitness people will approach you as a body only.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's the very thing that makes you probably unique is that most people aren't looking at the whole picture. And it's usually the body, like 90% of the world is only focused on the body. And like and I know that it's like there is so much more going on. Usually it's showing up in the body is like the kind of like the final straw. It's like if cancer shows up in your body, it's like that's like the final straw from like years and years of being in fight or flight or being stressed out or whatever, not treating the body right, whatever it may be. And then it's like, oh yeah, here's this thing, and then we try and treat the thing or deal with the symptom instead of getting to the root cause of why it happened in the first place. And so, I mean, that approach to fitness alone is in itself. something that's probably completely unique, you know?
Yeah, and I've even like experienced having because the physical things persist, like they return. You can solve them on the physical level, and then the corollary between like the root cause being spiritual and then addressing the root cause of physical pain is like uh, people. Most forms of therapy are just like symptom oriented, or even like medicine, like allopathic medicine is just giving drugs and prescriptions to treat symptoms, but not getting to the root. And so if you're treating the root cause on the physical level, you're already like top 99th percentile of sophistication. And then if you add on like the power of the mind to that, then you're in the top like 0.1%.
Hmm. Hmm.
Something like that. If you're aware of that context or that framework, then your range of the things that you can help with, like anyone who comes to me or who hears about that I've helped people with injuries or that I've overcome injuries who come to me, like I know that I can help them on some level because they're in front of me. And that's what I ask for. I'm like, just send the people I can help. And then when they're in front of me, I'm like, okay, like let's get a good picture. Like let's spend some time together.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing, man. That's like it's like so refreshing to hear someone that's like actually like thinking at that level, right? And it's like how did you like both you and your brother are like both like you guys are like talking about like spirituality and being connected to God and all of that stuff and like this is stuff that didn't come to me until like I was in my 30s kind of thing. And so like what was the mechanism that allowed you guys to be like so open to all of this stuff?
That's a good question. I mean, it's always grace, like ultimately. So I was personally very stubborn and argumentative. Like growing up, I was like a hardcore atheist.
Mm.
And then the path of like just being addicted to like drugs, just like smoking weed and vaping and smoking, pushed me down a path of pain where I kind of hit a breaking point. Like I was pretty lucky that I was able to hit my rock bottom where I wasn't able to tolerate any more pain relatively soon, like only as like an 18-year-old
Yeah.
who's just smoking. But for me, that was too much because it was ultimately being used to like soothe my emotions, like my emotional state growing up. And so I think reaching that breaking point and just being like, like maybe there's an alternative. The first thing that me and Mark did was like cold plunges.
Oh yeah, right. I remember you guys being involved in that. Yeah. And then cold plunge. I love the idea of cold plunges. We're actually right in the process of getting a couple of cold plunges installed out at Lungo Vita there, and it's going to be awesome. And we're gonna have two different temperatures. Like one's kind of like an entry level, and one will be like more hardcore, like pretty much like ice on it kind of thing. Um, but the cold plunge is essentially like it's a mechanism of letting go because if you resist the cold, it is worse. You actually have to let the body relax and accept the cold and actually ask for more of it. But then you can sit in there like for long periods of time, essentially, right? And so like, yeah, it's interesting that that cold plunge led you into like, I mean, it was a catalyst to like going deeper to like look within and get connected. Like, was that where the shift happened, where you started like um, believing in God, energy, universe, all that. Is that where it began, kind of thing?
That is where it began because I couldn't do it. I would go down the ladder into the coal. I couldn't go past my belly button. I'm like, man, this friggin' sucks. And then I would get dragged back out and stuff. You're always getting dragged from the top up, right? So we're all
Yeah.
kind of like pulling each other along. But I would just keep getting dragged out. And then, they're like, oh yeah, well if you can't, I'm because I couldn't breathe in the cold. So I
Okay.
was like, okay, do some breathing exercises. So I do breathing exercises. And previously, up until that point, I was very much like, oh, I can't meditate. Like, regardless of spiritual realization, I was like an atheist. I was like, I can't even meditate just to calm my mind and calm my anxiety.
Yeah.
Doing breathing techniques, like cyclic hyperventilation, like breathing a lot and then holding your breath.
Yeah.
That was the first time I ever really felt peace in my life. And
Mhm.
then I was like, oh, maybe I can throw on some guided meditation. And through guided meditation was the first time I had the subjective realization that I'm not my thoughts.
Yeah. 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 And that's like basically like that's the awakening point, is I'm actually like I've read like every Hawkins book like over and over again, and I'm rereading Discovering the Presence of God. And he basically says in that book is like most people will go their entire life without ever realizing that they exist. Like they're just letting the ego run the show. And then it is when usually, yeah, meditation or whatever it may be, even being introduced to the concept that you can observe your thoughts and recognize that you can step back from them. That's when everything changes because you go, wait a second, if I'm taking this step back and I can observe what the mind is telling me, then who am I actually? Right. And then that's like the awakening that begins. And that's like kind of like the door opening, I believe, to like greater levels of awareness and higher states of consciousness. And once you get there, it's like I wouldn't say but you're on your way is I guess the way to say it. And so that's where you've been since then. It's kind of like just continuing to kind of go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and like as long as you're on the way, like you're already saved. Like
Yeah,
that's already won. Well, if you exist, you won the lottery, and then if you have whatever enlightenment as your final goal, you're like won the lottery times 10.
100%, 100%. It's like even just to have the goal to move towards enlightenment is like you're so far ahead of the game. And I always attribute it to like it's like I don't like my goal of course is enlightenment and it's not something I understand it's not something that I go get. It's something that I unlock from within. And but I recognize that if I never get there, I'm okay with it too. Like, it's like because it's like I always give the analogy of it's like if you're making 50 grand a year and the goal is to make 1 million a year and you only got to 300K a year. It's like your life is a lot better. Like it's a lot easier. There's no more, you're not worried about bills and car payments and all of this kind of stuff. You're in this like greater state of flow. And even though you didn't get to the million, it's like that's been the improvement. And so, I've recognized in myself, and I'm wondering about this for you too, is that sometimes as I read about these higher states of consciousness and enlightenment, like Hawkins talks about, like in high states of consciousness, you just remove yourself from all worldly, you know, whatever interactions. Not I want to say interactions, but like the like materialism, wanting to get any getting. You're completely removed from all of that. And he says at that point you can usually make the decision of whether you want to stay or whether you want to go. And to me, that actually in some ways feels like oh, well, I want to stay. Like, I don't want to go, right? And so, like, that's my attachment still to the ego that's still here, and the fear that if I surrender completely, that I'm going to leave, essentially, right? And so, now I contextualize that by saying, well, every level of consciousness that I have increased, my life is dramatically improved, like dramatically. So, even though I'm fearful of essentially getting to a place where I've renounced everything from the world and I'm like ready to leave, I recognize that at that point, it will be like, I'll be like, hey, this is better than where I once was. But I'm wondering if you ever have like any moments of like that, like, should I keep going deeper?
100%.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're being annihilated. It's like, not that I have had that experience, but totally like you say, it's like I don't really know if I kind of like where I'm at because you're like you have. I remember even Hawkins talking about like it's one thing to release like the iron chains of the ego,
Yeah.
but it's a completely another thing to surrender the golden chains of ecstasy.
Yeah, right, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, and he talks about those like really, really like a euphoria. It's like, okay, now you got to surrender euphoria to go further. And it's like, I don't want to let that go. This is amazing, right? And so, yeah, no, it's been interesting, but I mean, I just trust in the process is basically like, I just know that if I keep undoing, all of these limitations from within, that I'm going to continue to move closer to God or allowing God to be unlocked from within, clearing the clouds so the sun can shine fully on me essentially. But I think one of the things that people think is that because especially when you hear about it, like when you're talking about it, like it all seems great. Like yeah, your life sucked and now it's better and it all seems great, but the reality that I've been coming to recently is that usually before those big leaps, those big advancements, there is like deep, deep pain, you know. And in order for you to go, you have to go through that pain. Usually pain that you were unaware was even there, right? And like we're kind of like what you had talked about in your comment there on, it's like, you kind of left your passion to pursue like a 9 to 5, and it was like, well, what was the pain that led you to make that decision, essentially, right? And so it's like in order to continue to advance, you're going to have to face that pain head on, and it's going to be uncomfortable as fuck. And so I'm wondering if you've had like experiences of like that ascension being, not all rainbows and butterflies, essentially.
100%. And it never fails. And every single time it happens, I just like I try to just remember because every single time, it's like it almost doesn't happen without it. Like
Yeah.
I've almost never even I feel like I've transcended a level without a ton of pain. Although I have like grace is always infinitely providing like just free love constantly. And then
Mhm.
sometimes I get that pain. I'm like, wow, like I've been through it with my relationship, like having a ton of pain. And then now it unlocked a dimension of love where I honestly never really thought possible. Or maybe I conceptualized the amount of love, like being willing to die for someone, or,
Yeah.
yeah, feeling like unconditional love for them. But I didn't experience it like in my heart. I only thought about it. And so experiencing it in my heart
Mhm.
is so transformational. Um, that
What do you think led you to like? Because that's interesting because one of my things that I recognize that I had to transcend and can continue to transcend is that after I went through the death of my mother at 9, like I immediately unconsciously put up walls to protect me from ever being susceptible to that pain again, which meaning like I basically was never going to let myself love anyone to that extent ever again because if I did, I would get hurt essentially, right? And I didn't know I put those walls up until I started, uncovering it. And so one of the big things that for me, especially in like my relationship, is to recognize that those walls are up and be aware of them. And when they are there to try and, go beyond them, move them, knock them down, whatever, so that I can let that love in. But it was a process of like really being resistant. And that wasn't actually until I had my kids that actually like it unlocked it again for me. I'm like, oh, this is the love that I'm supposed to be experiencing. Not this other love that I thought I had done a lot of work with and knocked down all these walls. Like this is the level of love that I'm supposed to have for my partner as well, right? And so I'm interested in like, and I don't know, like I'm sure you do know, but it's like what was the thing that allowed you to get to that level of love with in your relationship?
that I think bringing up the kids thing. When you said it, it was like I felt similar, not to that degree of like losing a parent at such a young age, but
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to protect myself from like even being loved, just for fear of being hurt.
Yeah.
That's definitely the essence of it. So you nailed it.
Yeah, and so like so once you become aware that you have those protections up, that awareness in itself is like 80% of the way. But then there is still like even with for me, even with the awareness, I recognize how quickly the ego would go into patterns of like protection. Like one of the ones I'm still working on is like when my wife like gets upset and cries, my instinct is to push her away because I don't want to be around that pain because her pain causes me pain and so instead I like remove myself. Like I don't leave the room, but I just like I don't go to her, I don't comfort her, I don't hug her. And so that is because of my own blocks. And so I've been trying, but it's so uncomfortable for me like when I go there. And so I'm recognizing so the awareness of that discomfort and then choosing to move forward anyway has been the way that I've been expanding that love. And so I'm wondering, like, is there anything that you would add to that, like that you've kind of been experiencing with respect to like allowing yourself to love deeper, essentially, or fully, I guess?
Yeah, like just like even just being seen, like I have that same thing of like for on the other end, it would be like if I'm like crying even out of joy. Like I was with my partner at this like heritage tree in London that we walked into the forest and found, like it's like the mother tree of this forest, whatever, it's like 800 years old, and just like having a moment of like gratitude and sort of tearing up. And sort of her, and she was sort of like, oh, like not all nonverbal, but she's sort of like always having a moment, like I'm going to give him space, but like that's the opposite of what I wanted, because it's always like the child inside is always like what I found is just the desire to just be seen, or like the wanting to be seen, and like the emotions just being validated. And so just being with her, or even just crying like in front of anyone, or just
Yeah.
being anyone and feeling emotions has been transformational, because it's like, oh, I actually survived that experience. Like I thought, maybe she'd think I'm a wimp and then leave type thing.
Yeah.
Actually, the
Yeah.
opposite. It actually strengthened our relationship.
Yeah, and I think that like that is so important to hear for like men because I think actually like a fully healed man, not fully healed and be enlightened is just like there's always a journey, but like a fully healed man would be able to see, like for example, in my example, to see his partner hurting, recognizing that that is a block for him, and then to move through that and be confident that he can handle it and be in it. Or in your situation, to be full of gratitude to the point that it brings tears to your eyes, and I've been there many times in your life, but then to be okay in it and be like, hey, yeah, I can be full of gratitude to the point where it makes me cry, but I can also still be a man, and I can also still have this masculine quality and be a protector and all of this stuff. And so I think people get it like when you talk about like a man crying and men that are like looking to do this work, which I think more and more men are beginning to lean this way, which is going to be great. And so, but I think that a lot of them think that it's like wimpy, but it's actually the reverse. It's like for me to go to my partner when she's hurting and move beyond my own fears and limitations, like that takes courage. And so actually through the process of doing this work, I have become more masculine, believe it or not, because it was like that weak feminine part of me that I was refusing to look at, right? Not that the feminine's weak, but like for a man being like leaning more feminine, it was weak because and that's the thing that made me like fearful and avoided confrontation and all of these things. And now that I've removed all that, I've actually become more of a man. And I think that's what people, I think that's a good thing for people to understand, from this conversation is that you can be spiritual and actually it'll make you a better partner. It'll make you a better father. It'll make you a better business person, everything because you'll have faced all of the things that have been limiting you, right? And it's like that crying at a tree. It's like, most men would resist that completely, right? So, I'm assuming probably felt that too, of like leveling up as far as like courage kind of thing.
Yeah, it's both. It's like she's crying and having the courage to come for her, and then allowing yourself to cry is almost like um, there's a child on the inside. So if there's it's her child coming out too. So it's sort of like the same thing. Like you're taking care of her, you're taking care of yourself, and it is like probably the most. It's the scariest thing, especially as a man, to like show your emotions because it actually feels like you're gonna die. Like it feels like um, you know uh, if I like seem a certain type of way, if you cry from emotion, it's just extremely vulnerable
Yeah.
because just open to being hurt. And like you said, like if you lose your mom at age 9 and you're like, wow, like that pain from like loving someone so much and then losing them, like I'll literally do anything to avoid that pain because we're just as humans, we're way more averse to loss than we are desiring gains. Like the gain of having someone to love is not worth, the potential loss of it or the pain of it.
Yeah, and my wife actually had a great um, message one day. Like, she is like my wife is one of those people that it's like I would say she's at a higher level of consciousness because she's always been able to like just speak the truth. Like, she's just like her true self. She's kind of like Candace Owens. Like, my wife could be Candace Owens essentially. Like, because she's like, if I say something, you can hold me to it because I spoke it from the truth, my complete and total truth, right? And so one time when we were talking about getting another dog after one of our dogs had died, and she said, I'm willing to go through the pain of losing a dog, for however long that pain will last, because that pain is temporary, but the joy that that dog brings over the course of like its life, 10, 15 years is like, it's so much more valuable, right? And I was like, wow, like that's actually pretty powerful, because it's like, it is true. You may avoid getting another dog out of not wanting to feel the pain, the extreme pain that you feel when you lose a pet, kind of thing. You may avoid getting into a relationship because you don't want to re-experience the true pain of, losing a parent or whatever that may be. And so, like, to recognize that I can have the courage to face whatever's there, that is like the most manly thing you can fucking do, kind of thing.
100%.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, cool, cool. So like let's like kind of wrap up this half, but like let's just go with fitness though. Like because I want you to if someone is like who would be the person that you would help in like in the fitness world the most kind of thing.
That's such a good question. Okay, because when we'll take the difference between like the LeBron James and the Michael Jordans of the world versus the average person.
Yeah.
The elite natural or like the gifted athlete, The gifted athlete doesn't actually always understand what makes them gifted, what
Okay.
makes them talented. They show up, no warm up, drop 40, don't care, eat like crap. They just don't, they don't care, they don't get it. And those people are often the subject and the proponents of traditional fitness training because they will benefit from pretty much anything.
Yeah.
If they can do barbell back squat and then gain 12 inches of vertical in their high school career. And they'll be like, yeah, squatting's amazing. And then their trainers will be like, look at this kid I coached. All you got to do is back squat twice a week and you'll get that vertical and you'll get that athleticism. But
Mm.
there's so much more to athleticism. And so speaking to the person that I feel like I can touch the most would be like my former self or someone who grew up like unathletic, like slow, uncoordinated, like these
Mhm.
intangibles. And it almost all comes down to the structure of your body or your coordination that you're developed like since a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so one of the key components, like let's say like elevator pitch, like I only had like 5 minutes to explain, like
Yeah.
how do I become more athletic,
Yeah.
is like there's a quality that the elite athletes possess that the non-athletes do not, and that quality is the ability to transmit energy efficiently and have freedom of movement and coordination.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason that this is maybe not being acknowledged or understood is because up until about maybe like 20 years ago, we when doing dissection to understand how the body moves, we would actually remove the connective tissue or the fascia in order to look at the muscles to see how it functions.
Okay.
This is like the mechanistic way of seeing biomechanics would be like this muscle pull inserts here and or originates here and pull, and this is how we generate movement.
Yeah.
So you're like almost like Newtonian, or it's like layman's understanding of how things move.
Sure.
But the more recent discoveries in connective tissue and the properties of connective tissue is that it's much more energy based.
Mm.
It's much more non-linear. It's much more like electrical and holistic.
Mm.
And so the traditional approach of, you could say, science-based lifting is very isolation based.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's actually really analogous to life. And I think this is one of the main reasons I even created like my channel, is to even attempt to describe the paradigm shift between seeing the body from a mechanistic lens
Yeah.
to seeing it to like an energetic lens. And so if we think of athleticism as the ability to coordinate and sequence energy and to create power and create force and repeat that is a completely different like universe or realm than like lifting weights in a gym where you go up, down, up, down, up, down.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like, yeah.
that's an amazing elevator pitch. And it's like, yeah, because it's like because you basically just described what makes an athlete, right? And it's like, and so it's like, and if you are a person who isn't naturally gifted, but you want to advance athletically, it's like that's what you need to be looking at. It's like you can't be really you can't look at what the athlete is doing and apply it to yourself, right? It's like you
No.
have to, yeah, right. And so it's like, yeah, that's really, really good. I love that
Yeah. And it actually
analogy.
comes from my experience of like I tried the traditional lifting. Like if I did LeBron's James program, I get low back pain.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, you could be busy endlessly for that.
I'd probably
All
be
right. Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, that's awesome, man. I think like even like just having this conversation is like kind of like will open the door to like more opportunities for you to like because like when you're interviewed, I find like for myself, like when I get interviewed, it's like I'm like, man, I fucking was like spitting so much good stuff out there. But it's because it pulls out of you. You step into the field of saying, hey, like what is it you do and how can you help people? And then it gets pulled out of you. And so that's what's happening here. And so it'll probably already uh, the question that you asked me on YouTube is probably the answer's already coming to you. I'm guessing just as you're having this conversation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's kind of like shift gears to that because like where I see this channel going for myself is to do more like live coaching sessions kind of thing. Be like, because I've benefited so much. Like this is what Hawkins used to do. He'd get people up there and they'd have them ask questions, and he would say, "Okay, here's the answer," and that answer would help the entire room, right? And so that's kind of the way I see these podcasts going and being like where I'm just going to help people online and kind of publish it and it should help more people and the ultimate goal of this thing is to help people and so with that intention it's like I just surrender everything to God. So it's like I guess why don't we kind of shift gears here? Let's think of like a from being interviewed now to like being in a coaching suit. No, I'm the coach and you're the client kind of thing. And so if you were to come to me and you were like, what would be the one thing that you'd be looking for help with?
I think the one thing I'd be looking for help with would be um um it's almost like I understand that my gifts and my the things that I have to offer to the world are extremely valuable and I understand this. And then I have just like of course inner resistance to fulfilling my life purpose because it also comes along with a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
So like my vision for I go by truthful living on Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah.
And my vision for truthful living would be essentially an educational platform
Yeah.
and using the muscle testing or applied kinesiology discovery to verify the legitimacy of everything I teach, just to ensure that everything is true, just for the sake of truth itself. And so my goal, my branch off from truthful living, because I don't really see it as a business, I see it more as like a public service.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and sharing like a platform for even others to come on and share and use it as like a sort of like a community or like a
Yeah.
group thing, but it's obviously still in its inception. But the training aspect, truthful training, which is the things I speak about, which I could say it would be like my business,
Yeah.
also just training methods that there's a gap between what the mainstream understands and what is the truth, and
Yeah.
how can I make that information accessible to those who want it or those who are destined to have it, in a really easy, fun way, delivered by someone who they can relate to.
Yeah.
Maybe has good speaking skills or who can has the capacity to deliver information on camera if they like to do videos. And in the pursuit of like that, it's not my method, it's just the truth. It's just like the goal for truthful training is that it's truthful training, so it's not Alain's training.
Sure.
That
Sure.
would be my vision. And then so for me, the idea of creating something on the level of, let's say, like Czech Academy,
Yeah.
like holistic health, but like for athletic training, just the thought of myself like being responsible for this or realizing like, okay, like this is my destiny, this is my calling, and seeing how much potential there actually is. It's almost like, I'm sure you experience this all the time,
Yeah.
business, but it's like looking at a mountain which I know I must climb, and I'm gonna end up there no matter what.
Yeah.
Um, but like the uncertainty and the inner block and the you could say the struggle, like I've done really well, but it's also just uncertainty. And then the last thing I'll say to sort of stop me off of like where I am at the moment in my
Yeah.
life is it would be like I'm making just enough to cover my expenses, so I'm like basically breaking even,
Yeah.
but I have no cash reserve, and then I get like three cancellations in the same week, and then now I'm looking at basically not being able to afford living expenses,
Yeah.
and then at the same time I'm getting an offer from my brother who's like, hey, you want to come like set appointments for me, it's going to pay this amount, it's going to be really fun, we get to work together.
Yeah.
And just after doing this for 2 weeks, I'm like, heck yeah, like this is office job with no responsibility and just do
Mhm.
whatever commission work and sales. I'm like, this is freaking awesome, I can provide for my family, I can buy Christmas gifts.
Yeah.
That was something I was not looking at until 2 weeks ago. I was like, no one's get like I can't like I'm gonna be making Christmas gifts, but I'm definitely not buying anything.
Yeah.
Um, so there's always there's like that dichotomy between like I guess archetypally it would be like struggling for your passion or
Yeah.
comfort in a meaningless role.
Yeah. And so I think I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, and so like just kind of like holding up the mirror for you, is like really what I do for people. And so the last thing we'll start with the last thing you said, which is like struggling for my passion, right? And so that means that there's a belief in you that pursuit of your passion is going to be a struggle, right?
Yeah,
So
that's silly.
yeah, right. And so it's like, and so yeah, there will be struggles, but only if you contextualize that and see it as struggles. Like, have you done Course in Miracles?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so,
I'm
so
actually
Course in Miracles is like recognizing that, oh, there we go, right? Awesome.
I'm
So
using it to hold up my phone.
recognizing that it's like everything that we see in the world is we have given it its value, right? And so it's like to create something big, maybe the value you've given it is that there has to be struggle that goes along with it, kind of thing. And so now you've bought into this belief that you've created that for following your passion is going to be a struggle. And so if you are unconsciously holding in mind that the pursuit of my passion will be a struggle, then guess what's going to show up for you? It's going to be a struggle. You're not going to be able to pay your bills. You're not going to be able to buy Christmas gifts because that belief is just manifesting in your reality, right? And so it's like just with the awareness, actually it's giving me chills as I'm kind of telling it to you, so I know it's bang on. Just with the awareness that that's the belief that you've been holding on to, like that's probably been your biggest limitation to like going out and pursuing your passion, right? And so the fear of that struggle is so intense unconsciously. You're not even really that aware of it because the mind just goes into hyperdrive to be like, we don't want to struggle. We don't want to be poor. We don't want to, not be able to pay bills because you've been there and you're like, that fucking sucks. And I'm never going back there. Similar to like what I experienced with the loss of my mother. Right. And so without the realization and awareness of that, then you let that fear of that manifesting in your life win and you go out and get a job that's like comfortable and safe and all of that, right? And so the belief, it would all started with the belief that this has to be a struggle. It's like, okay, now we recognize that that doesn't have to be the case, right? And now I'll take it back to the mountain thing, right? And so like, everything that you said to me about your business, like I was sold on your business from that 5 minute speech that you gave there, right? I'm like, holy fuck, like there is no one doing this. You are the most niche motherfucker on earth. Okay. And so it's like that is your mountain to climb to fulfill that, right? So two things about the mountain is when you look up at all of your potential, right, which is the mountain to climb, it becomes so heavy because if you're not going after it, the pressure that you put on yourself to go after that potential becomes so much, then you never actually end up taking the first step to climb the mountain, right? And so like this has been like this thing that's been revealed to me recently. It's like every pleasure that I go after is because I am not pursuing my potential, right? So every time I feel like I'm not living to my full potential, I feel like I get down on myself and I feel like I'm a piece of shit and all of this. And so then what do? I eat like shit. That's my thing, right? What you do is go to safety. Okay. Yeah, right. And your safety is in, let's call it income streams, right? And so what we would need to recognize that is if I just start taking steps up that mountain, right? If I just climb a little bit every single day, do you believe that you're going to get to the top of the mountain? Like over the course of your life? Like if you just every single day you said, I'm going to take steps towards the top of that mountain, are you going to get to the top?
100%.
100%, right? So then that means so that what that does is allow you to step out of the pressure of the mountain, right? And just take a few steps every single day. And so the way this translates into your business is you are seeing the mountain and you're like, whoa, like look at all this potential, right? But because of all of that potential, you are kind of dismissing the first steps that need to be taken to kind of like start walking up the mountain. And so like if I'm looking at your business, what are the first steps that need to be taken? Well, the first steps I think that would need to be taken is to build a one-on-one clientele to the point where you can't fucking handle the demand. Right. And you're like, I don't like this job anymore. Like I got 40 clients and I'm working too hard and I'm burnt out. And that will be take you to the next kind of plateau on the mountain, which is like, now I got to figure out how to do this in groups. Right. And so then you start walking down that mountain, and now you figure out. Then the third step would be just releasing the content of everything that you do. And then it's like in courses and whatever and all of that. And that's just one path that could be laid out for you. Now, there may be multiple different But you're not going to know what any of those are until you start taking the baby steps at the foot of the mountain, right? And so now, if you do that, remove from the fact that this has to be a struggle, right? Then even those baby steps at the bottom of the mountain, it's like you could be making hundreds of thousands of dollars at the bottom of that mountain, you know? And so the plateaus, the little spots where you get to, the false summits are like those moments where you're like, whoa, like look at I've released this course. I'm teaching people in a group online, like like look at what Andrew's doing. It's like in a he's like, he's going to release that. He's probably going to make a bunch of money doing that. Right. And so it's like, and he's going to be only, you know, on a call once a month or whatever that may be. And so there's infinite potential on how you can get to the top of the mountain. Right. But you have to let go of that how and just do what you know how to do right now and let go of the struggle that you have created in your mind. Does that all make sense?
That makes so much sense, and it feels so good to hear it. And this just sounds like common sense. It really just sounds like just the truth.
Yeah, and it is true that that is half the time when we hear what it is that we've been kind of like we've known. It's like oh yeah, like I knew that. It's like I fucking went to Hormozy and paid him, all kinds of money for him to tell me that. I said, well, he didn't tell me. I uncovered it for myself. It's like I'm not missing anything. That's what I learned. It was like I had to pay like 25,000 bucks to go like I got everything that I need, right? It's like, and it was revealed to me because he's got his team up there, and they're all like these kids, like they're like, kids that have been in, happen to be in great pots, like they grew up in great pots, they grew up in private equity or whatever, and so they have all of this knowledge, and I'm not dismissing their knowledge, but I'm like, they are no different than me. And once I realized that, I was like, oh, I'm not missing a single thing, and that in itself was like the aha that I needed to like to continue to pursue everything that I'm doing, kind of thing, right? And stop doubting, like do I have what it takes? And that's the other thing that's happening for you is do I
Yeah,
have what it takes? But I think you can step out of that doubt by just recognizing that if I just take steps, if I just stay on this path, I'm going to get to the top, right? And now there may be different paths to the top that look like group coaching or whatever it is, but who knows? Like corporate sponsor, you might maybe get hired by a fucking basketball team. I don't fucking know which one it would be, but you're never going to know that unless you're actually climbing the mountain. Right. And so like that's what we talked about, like stepping out of the field kind of thing. Right. And so you just got to step into that. Right. And so then so when I say all that to you, then let me ask you this. What comes up for you the second I say you just got to be climbing the mountain, right? And so you're feeling the energy of like I got to start climbing the mountain, but already I felt resistance from you to be like, oh fuck, I don't know if I want to start climbing this mountain, right? And so like, what is it?
yeah. It's like other people know more than me. I don't know enough. That's really what comes
Yeah.
up.
So it's all self-doubt, right? It's all self-doubt. And so like, I think I can give this to you. I think I can step you out of self-doubt really easily and recognizing in what you just told me about physical fitness. I've been working out for since I was 18, even earlier, 16. I'm 47. So what is that? 30 years I've been working out, right? I have never heard someone describe what the difference between an athlete and it's never in my entire life, right? And if I was looking to pursue athleticism, you would be the guy that I would go to, right? And so it's like, oh, okay. So it's like, how many kids are growing up right now that want to be athletic and they're the exact you? It's like you're speaking directly to. So it's like you think that you don't have what it takes, but it's like you already have everything that you need. The only thing that you don't have is the belief in self, right? And now you do consciously, you know your shit. Like consciously, I got this. Like I know a lot, but it's that subtle little whisper that's like, yeah, I'm not good enough, essentially. I need to know more. Who am I? Who am I to tell people how to become an athlete, right?
Exactly.
Maybe there's even a belief in you, like maybe like you're like, I didn't get to the top level of mine. So how could I go and tell people how to do this, right? And it's like, so there's all of that. Like that's the whisper. And the analogy I've been working on for that is like as we become like spiritual students, the funny thing is our ego evolves, right? And so if you don't recognize that your ego is evolving as you uncover all of these realizations, you might start to use those realizations as tools to not face the pain that you actually have to face. So the analogy I've given is like, let's say, because yours is self-doubt, which is one that I had as well. Yours is self-doubt. So self-doubt is driving your bus, right? And so it just steered you to go get a job with your brother.
100%.
Okay. And so now, even though along your journey, you've picked up a lot of passengers that said, everything's going to be fine. Like you're going to be okay. Like I know it'll all work out. And they're all in the back of the bus screaming that, but self-doubt is still driving the bus. So until we go up to that self-doubt and grab them and be like, hey, listen, thanks for your help and your protection, but we're going to allow God to take this driver's seat now. Right? And we're just going to trust that if we walk this path, that everything is going to work out. And every time doubt shows up, we're going to kick them back off the bus, essentially. Right? So that's basically what's happening. And this is what I've been finding for a lot of spiritual students is that voice that used to be really loud, that when we became aware of it, it was like, whoa, it was so obvious. We thought we threw it off the bus, but all we did was make it quieter. Right? And so, but it was still driving, and that's the thing that's been like really coming to me. So self-doubt is what's driving for you. And so now you just got to step out of it and recognize how it shows up in your life. And one of the ways it just showed up for your life was like, this is too hard. I'm not, clients are canceling on me. I should probably go get a job. Right, is basically what it came down to. And so the self-doubt won, right? And so now it's about getting back on the mountain and just keep climbing and recognize it's not going to be a struggle. Money's going to come flowing in, right? And you got everything that you need to kind of move forward.
Wow, man, it's so true. And it literally just comes up. It only comes up when I'm in like a negative state.
Oh,
And when I'm in a positive state, I'm so confident because I'm
yeah,
consciously confident, but I'm subconsciously self-doubting. And the
yeah,
subconscious comes up like in the nighttime, if I've eaten some crap. That's why I stopped eating, or why I'm trying, or I'm becoming someone who doesn't eat
yeah.
crap. It's because when I eat crap, my gut's not happy, and then I start like doubting my own ability.
Yeah. And you know where your self-doubt is going to come up the most is in money crunches. Every time you get in a money crunch, I mean, even as I said that, I felt a pit in my stomach, right? And so even as every time that money crunch comes, the doubt is going to get loud and so loud, and you should go get a job. Like, what are you even doing here? You don't even know what you're that. It's good, and it's saying all of that because it's trying to get you back onto a course where it feels safer, right?
Yeah,
And so if you just say, I recognize what you're trying to do here, and maybe even lean into those moments where you didn't feel safe financially and secure financially, right? And then be like, okay, I'm okay. We're going to keep climbing the mountain. I recognize that there will be this one step that I take where I'm like, whoa, I see everything, and the money comes flowing in, right? And so yeah, I think that's where you're at, and I guess the other thing I want to leave you with too is like my two biggest mistakes I made because I had this realization the other day in entrepreneurship. The two biggest mistakes I made in entrepreneurship. Um, this realization I had the other day was like, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 16 years old. I'm 47. So 31 years I've been running my own companies legitimately. Since I was 16, I ran a company. I turned it to like $100,000 a year window washing company, right? And so for 30 years, I've been in the field of being an entrepreneur. And I was like, fuck, I should be way richer, is what I realized, right? I should be way richer. And I'm like, so I asked myself, well, why am I not? Right? Number one was lack of focus, being attracted to shiny things. So it's like, oh, I should go do this. I should go do this. I should go do this. And I would build something. It would get like to a place where it's doing okay. And then I would go do something else. Like I had to keep pushing beyond that. For me, I recognize like I'm creative. And so I want to do creative things. So when the creativity kind of dies of building a new thing, I want to go find something new that's creative, which is okay, but the intention would have to be to just build things, sell, move on. That should have been my path potentially. Or to find creativity, pushing beyond where creativity has kind of dimmed out. Okay. So, but regardless, the message for you here is lack of focus, right? We got to keep one clear focus on one thing. For you, it would be to turn people that aren't athletic into athletes. Like that is your focus, right? That's it. That's all you do. You don't do anything else. That's all you do, right? The second thing was not having the intention to grow my business, which sounds crazy because everyone that's in business, they want to make more money, right? But never being intentional about making more money, right? So like I always wanted to increase the sales when I was running trios. I wanted to increase the sales, but I was never tracking where my sales were last year. Like, and have I increased? Where my sales were month to month, where my sales were day to day. I never actually knew what the grand plan was like and like I should have said my goal, my intention is to open up 100 tree houses across all of Canada and North America. That should have been my grand plan, right? And if I would have just stayed on that path and moved towards it every single day, every single month, every single year, I would have done it. But because I got distracted by the shiny things and I wasn't even moving towards that intention, I was just moving towards this broad intention of make more money. Right? And so if you just get a clue of like where you're kind of headed, which I think you already see it, like I think you see it as like a YouTube channel, as a service, as a that kind of like branches out to courses and all of that. I think that's what you're seeing. If you just move in that direction, but make sure you're staying connected to that guide point, that lighthouse, making sure that every daily action is moving you closer. Actually go back to the mountain analogy, is moving you further up that mountain, and you're not getting sidetracked by a more attractive or higher mountain over there, right? And you're just moving up every single day. You're going to get there, right? And so it's like, wow, it's like if someone would have been able to take me and shake me and say, "This is what you're doing wrong," I would have been so grateful, but I had to kind of uncover it up for myself, right? And so I think if you take those two pieces of advice, which is like don't get attracted to shiny things, stay focused, and then get aligned with where you think you want to take this thing and make sure you move in that direction every single day.
Wow, that is amazing. And that is the value of a mentor, is someone who went through it themselves and then so I don't have to. So you're like shaking me, like don't do what I did.
You got it. And I think bringing it back to like um just trusting that if you keep climbing the mountain, you're gonna get to the top, right? It's like that's the thing I had in golf. It's like if I just practice every day, I've been practice 2 times a week, play 2 times a week, am I eventually gonna become a scratch golfer if my intention is to become a scratch golfer? It's like, yes, with 100%, I'm gonna be playing golf for 30 years. It's like I'm gonna get there, right? And so then that takes all the pressure and all the worry and doubt out of it. It's just like, no, just keep walking the road, right? And it's funny that we started this conversation with like consistency. It's like just be consistent, right? And it's like just trust in the process. And like I always say that to people, but I recognize that most people don't even understand what trust in the process means. It means keep showing up, trusting that if you keep doing that, you're going to get to where you want to go. That's what it means. And so it's like everyone else is trying to control it all, right? There we
That's
go,
always
man. I'm fucking pumped. Let me know when you launch this motherfucker.
I will send it to you. I will also send you what I have right now and then
Yeah, man. Yeah, like I could help you. I could help you build something where you would have like an unlimited demand of clientele, like really, really quickly. And you almost have to go through that. You almost have to go through the pain of having too many clients, like because that's what happened with me with coaching. It's like I built this great coaching business. I was making like 300 grand a year coaching people, but I hated my life because I was like, I have no free time. Like I
yeah.
have to be on all of these calls all of the time. And so, but going through, walking up that portion of the mountain is what allowed me to see the bigger picture of like how I have to take the next step. And so it's like you got to kind of almost go through that. But in going through that, you're going to solve all your financial problems too, though.
That's fun.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so it's like, and the thing is about that kind of stuff is like the growth feels so slow, but then all of a sudden it like hockey sticks, right? And like that's like kind of like where you kind of have to go. That's what I'm going through at Lungo Vita. It's like the growth feel I can see the big picture and I just want to like jump to the big picture, but it's like, no, you got to go slow. And there will come a point though when I get the profitability to like $1 million a year out there where it's like my growth is going to hockey stick because if you're making $1 million a year, like I can get loans, I can do whatever the fuck I want. And so, the building what I've built up until this point has been slow. It's taken me 4 years. But the second I show $1 million profitability, I go to the bank and say, hey, I want to build 20 cabins and I want to build this new main building. They're going to give me $2 million. I'm going to build those 20 cabins and the main building in 6 months. And in a 6 month turnaround, I'm going to freaking end up quadrupling my income, right? And so like that's the way it unfolds, right? It's like it's slow in the beginning, but it's like if we just trust that we keep walking, we're going to get there.
Wow, man, that is amazing advice, and I accept it like with no reservations. I truly believe that like you have, you know, my best interest at heart, and I accept your advice.
Yeah, awesome, man. Yeah, and just keep me updated along the way. I'm happy to help you out with like whatever the messaging, the marketing, like whatever you want to do. Like I'm happy to just like because like that's the kind of stuff to me about business that's fun. It's not a struggle. It's like the joy of like how do I present what I know I can present in a way that makes people say, I need that right now. Like that's fun to me, right? Because it really is truly helping people too, right? So
Well, thank
right
you
on,
so much.
man. Okay, well, where can people find you? Like talk about your fitness and follow this journey that you're gonna go on of climbing this mountain.
Truthful Living is my life page, and Truthful Training is my training page.
Amazing. And is that like on all socials or just YouTube or what?
YouTube and Instagram.
Awesome. Sweet man. Well, thanks so much for the conversation. This was awesome. I'm glad that you commented there on YouTube and feels good to be back and I'm energized for you, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the live coaching is sick because that's how I see it too. That's how I see all podcasts. It's a conversation, but then you share with others for the benefit, like you said, what Hawkins would do in the lectures.
100%. Awesome, man. Thanks so much.